Midway is a tiny atoll located directly between Japan and the mainland United States. It contained no resources, but it could serve as a vital strategic point. Although they're the home of albatross currently, but everybody associated them for something else. The Battle of Midway of 1942, when Japanese Empire attempted to take control of Midway from the United States. And they lost 4 carriers and 1 cruiser in a single day. How could such these things happen? Why Japan wants Midway? In the early year of Pacific War, the Japanese Empire is a big strong bully of the Pacific. They had kept many victories under their belt, captured many resources-rich territories across Asia and Pacific, and they have a big strong navy that was making American uncomfortable. Japan believes that they can beat everyone standing in their way. But then, they began to feel vulnerable. So, they started point their interest on Midway, and Japan wants them for 2 main reasons. Its domination of the entire Pacific, and to eliminate its greatest threat. The United States Pacific Fleet, especially its aircraft carriers. Japan wants to destroy the Pacific Fleet quickly, before Americans' industry could outdo them in the future. The success, Japan believes it could force America into negotiation for peace. Yamamoto's plan. The task of invasion on Midway was given to Admiral Suroku Yamamoto. It divided his plan into 4 phases. Before commencing the attack, he will send a small fleet to attack Aleutian Islands, hoping the America will take a bait. Then, the Japanese carrier group Rakido Butai will attack Midway by air. Led by Vice Admiral Chuchi Nagumo, his fleet is built around 4 fleet carriers: the Kagi, Kaga, Soryu and Hiryu. Next, after the destruction of Midway, Vice Admiral Kondo's invasion force will land 5,000 Marines on the islands, take out any remaining Americans. Finally, if American carriers made an appearance, Japan will welcome them with a concert of battleships, carriers, destroyers and submarines. Japan had surprised America before at Pearl Harbor. Thus, at Midway, they want to do it again. But that's not gonna happen, because America knows everything. Cracking Japanese Navy code. When it comes to code cracking, the Americas started learning to decipher code messages even before World War I, and they used it as an advantage. They began to crack code JN-25 after Pearl Harbor attack, which was a primary code that Japan used to send military messages. It contained almost 30,000 of words, phrases and letters. The US Navy Combat Intelligence Unit worked tirelessly to crack this code. Using complex mathematical analysis, cipher machines, and a little help from Japanese, they were able to crack most of it by January 1942. Their finding helps American commanders to know when, how, and where the Japanese will conduct their offensive. Allow Nimitz to plant an ambush against the Japanese. Nimitz's plan. Nimitz's plan was kinda simple. He will send 2 carrier task forces to northeast of Midway, and launch the surprise attack on Japanese carriers, while they kept busy attacking Midway. In order to achieve this, he need an element of surprise, meaning his carriers have to be at the right place and right time. Otherwise Japan might notice. At the same time, Midway also prepared itself for the upcoming invasion. The US force is ready. Yamamoto believes he got American cornered, when in fact, it was himself. The trap is set. Silence and divided. As the Japanese wanted to mask their intention, and worried about Americans eavesdropped on their radio. When they left Japan, they separated their fleet and maintained radio silence. Even this helped avoid any detection, but there is no way for them to know what happened with other fleets. And this happened to Admiral Kondo. The PBY Catalina scout plane had spotted him at southwest of Midway on the morning of the 3rd of June. The pilots thought he spotted a main fleet, and the 9 B-17s were sent to attack on Kondo's position, but scored no hit. Damn it, Kondo was lucky. At this point, he could tell Yamamoto about the attack, but chose to remain silent. Because of this, neither Yamamoto or Nagumo know anything about the attack. And especially for Nagumo, his fleet would soon be involved in a turning point of Pacific War. They have 2 few recon groups. After Nagumo launched the attack on Midway at around 4:30, he sent a group of recon planes to find any American ships. He didn't expect to see them, but just to make sure. And this is when a problem begins. He had a low number of scout planes, and they had to make a search on a wide area in the open sea, making it difficult to spot any American fleets. The Japanese did send a fleet of submarines to a vicinity of Pearl Harbor. But they too failed to spot the Americans. This causes the Japanese to assume the Americans were still off guard, and their flanks were clear. In fact, they doesn't. As when Nagumo's planes started the attack, they bombed it very badly. But Midway remained operational, and the second attack was needed. Gone against Yamamoto's order, Nagumo ordered his reserve planes to be ready for second attack on Midway. Then, something unexpected happens. Nagumo's decision. After Nagumo ordered for the second attack, he received a shocking news. One of his scout planes had spotted the American fleet on 7:45. That's right, American fleet hidden underneath the layers of clouds were finally been spotted. Nagumo was stunted. He knew he must strike the American now. But he had a problem. Some of reserve planes were armed with wrong ordnance. The first strike group are returning from Midway. And his fighters that have been protecting his task force were running low on fuel and need to land. Nagumo had to make a decision. But which choice does he choose? Send an immediate strike right now, but risking to lose his returning planes for unnecessary ditching. Or he could recover the planes returning from Midway and launch a full balanced strike on whatever this target is with proper ordnance. Well, even he know the Americans are there, it takes times for his scouts to make an identification of enemy ships. He hates to lose his planes for no reason, and he assumed that his fleet was outside American striking range. If the enemy wants to attack him, they need to come closer. So, without concern, Nagumo went for a safe option, a second one. He will recover his planes first, rearm them with anti-ship weapons, and launch an attack on the American fleets. Although this would lead to the criticism, Nagumo's decision was based on what the doctrinal had told him to. If any Japanese commander was in the same place, they would do the same. What Nagumo needing now is the 45 minutes window to launch the attack. However, most of his bombers will never leave any hangars again. His attack was been frequently interrupted. Before Nagumo can decide, his fleet came under attack by a squadron of Midway's bombers and fighters. Although they scored no hits and suffered moderate casualties, but at least causing the Japanese ships to make an evasion, delay the attacks. Not only that, their flight decks were solely occupied with the refueling, rearming cap fighters. To add to the mess, his fully armed field bombers were parked densely inside his carriers' hangars, leaving Nagumo in a vulnerable situation. More disturbingly, the American already had his fleet in range of the attack in the entire time. And they already here. The 14 torpedo bombers came in and struck Kaga. Slow and unescorted, the Zeros swarmed over and nearly shot down all of them. 5 torpedoes were launched, but Kaga skillfully avoided them as well. It looked like Japanese is taking a lead, but guess what? Another attack. And another. You have got to be kidding me. If their torpedo bombers can reach us, so where the dive bombers? They asked to themselves. And guess what? They're already here. And you can blame Arashi for that consequence. Arashi's led the way. The destroyer Arashi was trailing behind from her fleet as she persisted to chase the USS Nautilus. The Nautilus was been spotted numerous times, but skillfully avoided Arashi's deadly depth charges. Keeping Nautilus down enough that she possessed no threat, Arashi steamed at full speed to rejoin Nagumo's fleet. She doesn't realize that she had accidentally created a long wake that made visible to enemy planes. Her wake was soon been discovered by Enterprise's dive bombers. Lieutenant Commander McCluskey had led his squadron to a wrong location, and their planes were about to run out of fuel. He then turns his squadron northwest, hoping to find the Japanese fleet. Not long after, his gamble was paid off. He spotted Arashi, and undetectably followed her until the Kido Butai appeared right in front of his eyes. McCluskey's and other Dauntless squadrons were lucky. The Zeros were been distracted by incoming VT-3's torpedo bombers and Thatch's Wildcats, leaving Kido Butai vulnerable to the air attack. So, there's nothing opposed to determined dive bombers' pilots, as they're rolling down for revenge. 3 carriers knock off from battle. Kaga was the first to hit. She got 4 hits, with 1 detonated near the bridge, killing the entire command staff. Then, within a minute, the bombers and fighters from Yorktown attacked Soryu. They scored 3 hits on Soryu, knocking her off the battle. Akagi was trying to run away, but she too suffered a similar fate. Lieutenant Best had managed to drop a bomb on the Akagi. It penetrated a flight deck, then follows by the explosion. At this point, you might wondering, Akagi just got 1 hit, why she been knocked off easily? Well, when Nagumo ordered his planes to switch to anti-ship weapons, the bombs were not stored away safely, and laid haphazardly around the hangars, turned his carriers into an explosive stored hangars. And when the bombs penetrated through the flight deck, it detonated those bombs inside, send the shockwave across the hangars, destroying all planes and some personals inside. Because of this, the fate of Nagumo's 3 carriers were doomed. Akagi and her comrades would soon been scuttled. Hiryu is only 1 left. Hiryu's final attacks. 3 carriers gone, but Japanese insisted to press on. They still believe that they can win, even outnumbered. So, Hiryu launched the attack on the only target she knows, the Yorktown. Her dive bombers managed to score 3 hits on Yorktown, setting ablaze within minutes. The Yorktown was damaged. But thanks to her damage control teams, she returns back operational. Nonetheless, Hiryu had sent another attack. This time, with torpedo bombers. When they arrived, they thought they had found another carrier and pressed the attack. They scored 2 torpedo hits and thought they had sunk another carrier. But again, they just wasted their ordnance on the same ship. Not long after, the Yorktown was abandoned. Enterprise and Hornet were shocked to see her old sister in defeat. They were hungry for revenge. So, Admiral Skrntz ordered them to send all of remaining aircraft to attack Hiryu. And they found her, 72 miles west of burning Yorktown. Hiryu's luck was finally ran out. She suffered from 4 bomb hits, and she too, been knocked off from the battle. She would join her comrades later in the following day. The battle was over. Both sides sustained major losses, but the Japanese suffered the most. They had lost more than 2,500 men, 292 aircraft, 4 carriers, along with the cruiser Mikumi, which was been bombed and later sank. While the American had lost just 307 men, 145 aircraft, a carrier Yorktown and a destroyer Hamlin. Both were sunk by a sneaky I-168 submarine. So what happens after Battle of Midway? The first thing for sure, the Japanese's dream to become the conqueror of Pacific was over. Their loss was too great that no matter how hard they trained, or any introduction of new tactics or new equipment, could not save them from an inevitable defeat. For Americans, however, it was a very good news since Pearl Harbor. The tide of war had shifted. Now it's American turn to go on for offensive.